08717 223344. It is the issue of the English Defence League and also that of Unite Against Fascism. The English Defence League pitched up in Bradford, one of many marches and demonstrations they've tried to have. Sometimes they would consider with a certain level of success. Other times, I think in their words, it'd be reasonable to say, impeded by areas such as the police, who were not able to let them do perhaps what they set out to do. The leader of the English Defence League is Tommy Robinson. He's with me now. Tommy, good evening.
Good evening.
So first of all, you're the leader. When did you start it, and why did you start the English Defence League?
We started in response of what happened to our troops in Luton when they were abused, spat upon by Islamists back in March. Probably, what's that, 16 months ago, 17 months ago?
Yeah, this was March last year.
March last year, yeah. So after they done that against the soldiers, we organised a demonstration under the banner United People of Luton. We bought a cameraman to record the whole demonstration so we could basically take pictures of what the police were doing, and we were met with a police presence where we were made to take our shoes off in the town. We had our hands put down, our hands in our pockets, section 60, cameras in our face, stop and search, corralled, and then when we come out of the pub in the town centre, and this was the community having their say against what happened that day that the whole country was disgusted against. We were told by the police there we're not allowed to march to the town hall. We hadn't had permission, at which point we tried to. We were met by police on horseback. One of our best mates, a little black lad, holding up a banner saying National Front go to hell, had his teeth knocked out. And pretty much afterwards, if the whole town wasn't already enraged and disgusted what had happened...
When you say he had his teeth knocked out, by who?
His teeth knocked out on the baton by a police officer. You can watch the video. It was met, from our point of view, from the people... We are the people of Luton, that's what we say. We're the real people of Luton, not them Islamist scum that protest against our soldiers, that the whole country, whenever they see Luton, that's all they see.
When you say Islamist scum, I mean, that's quite an inflammatory phrase. Let me just get you to qualify that. Are you saying Islamist as in the politicised Islamism as distinct from Islam?
Yes, I am. And I'm saying the people that promote Sharia law and call for the aspects of Sharia law that are disgusting, as in throwing gay people off roofs and sleeping with children and stoning people to death, medieval, backward, retarded forms of Islam. And that's what these people call for regularly on the streets of Luton, and these are the same people that protest against our soldiers. And then when we watched back the camera footage afterwards, and then we put into YouTube anti-Gaza war protest, and we saw 1,000 Muslims march out of Berry Park, which is the Islamic community of the town. And they are led by this Islamist scum that I'm talking about, which are leading the whole parade, running it with the megaphones, and they've got 1,000 people following them. And the police are marching, and some of them are wearing balaclavas, and the police are marching alongside them with big smiley faces. And whilst marching, they're calling for the death of Israel, openly shouting, bomb, bomb Israel, etc. And they're not met by any police on horseback or any koshes. And then I thought about when they protested against our soldiers, because I was there that day.
Well, isn't it because, Tommy, they had registered that march to take place and you guys hadn't?
But what I'm saying is the police have said that they weren't given permission to do that against our soldiers. I was there that day. The police didn't stop and search them, didn't put cameras in their faces. We're not affiliated with carrying weapons. Why are they Section 60 in us? Why are they treating our community in such a different manner?
How many of you on that day were there?
About 200 to 300.
But of course, the protests against the soldiers, in terms of numbers, was very small initially.
No, it was very small what everyone saw.
Sort of, a dozen guys.
Yeah, my cousin was arrested for that. When they done that in front of the soldiers, there was about 15 to 20. But down outside Don Miller's, when they moved them down, there was about 80 to 90. And the police actually stopped. I've got the intelligence sheets from my cousin's arrest. They stopped 330 Muslims coming into Luton that morning. And out of them 330, 70% of their birthplaces weren't even in this country. Now, that's what we say it was only a minority. There was 20 to 30. Imagine there was 300 or 400 of them that day. They were coming to attack our troops in Luton. That's what we see. Just verbally, whether it be verbally or violently, they did attack our troops that day. And nobody, what I see, has done it. Nothing's been done. They've still done that since that. They've done it in Barking.
But haven't the police, Tommy, haven't they worked on the basis that this is such a small minority of Muslims who don't represent other Muslims. We had enough Muslim guys call us last night to tell us that these people don't represent them. So from the authorities' point of view, as offensive as it is, and some of these people have been arrested, and there are people that have faced charges for that kind of incitement in different areas, as I'm sure you know. But the issue is so small that it would be inflammatory for the old Bill to suddenly mobilise an entire force against a couple of dozen radical characters. Isn't that perhaps where they're coming from?
Yeah, there's two issues. There's the police response to it, which, as I've said, they've come out, we've been smashed, lads have lost teeth, the police are charged for on horseback through the town centre, etc. And there's that issue, the different treatment to the two communities. Then there's the issue that you say they're not really the voice of the local community. Why doesn't the local community do something about it? Because last Tuesday, they're in Luton Town Centre again. Every Friday after Friday prayers, they've got stalls set up in their community. Now, and I actually sat in Luton Borough Council, and there was they called us down for a meeting to talk to them, and there was a Muslim fella there called Mr. Hussein, and he said they don't represent our community, they're not part of our community. I said, don't tell me about not representing our community, because when the National Front turned up that day I'm talking about in our town, we run them out of our town. We physically smashed them out of our town. Yet I watch on YouTube where these same scum, which are the equivalent of the National Front, but more dangerous than ever, led your community out of your... So we wouldn't even stand aside them. You let them lead you. You let them set up stalls. Now, it's all very well condemning it, but I watch it. They walk past, they get their hands shaken. We live in the town. They don't get hostility like they should, as the racist, fascist people that they are. They're the biggest fascist this country's ever seen, and groups like we had to form. We had to. It was inevitable. It had to happen because government-funded organisations like United Against Fascism, who are supposed to combat fascism, have never ever tackled this issue. They never will. In fact, they side themselves with.
So why then is it, Tommy, that the United Against Fascism will not share a platform with you, sir? Because they believe that you are a fascist.
No, well, they won't share a platform with me because they will lose the debate wholeheartedly. That's the only reason why. And for him to say, I'm a fascist, Wayman Bennett, who's on next, is a blatant fascist. He's anti-Semitic.
Well, I will hang on a second. These are things that you can't on a national radio accuse somebody of.
On January 10th, 2009,
because he's not here at the moment in order for me to put those two. When he comes on, Tommy, rest assured I will put those allegations to him.
Okay,
but from a legal perspective, I'm forced to say to you, we have to be careful what you accuse somebody of, otherwise you and me will end up in front of the beak.
Okay, on January 10th, 2009, at a Gaza War demo in London, Wayman Bennett said, quote, his words, smash capitalism, smash Israel, and demanding that Israeli Jews go back to where they come from, New York or wherever.
Okay, if that's the allegation you're going to put, then I will put that to him and we will see what he says. So I'm allowing you to make that comment in the context of the fact that I am going to put it to him when he comes on in about 10 minutes' time. Let me ask you this though, Tommy. Yeah. The issue you guys have got now is that however reasonable the initial points you make here, and I think most people listening will say, well, I agree with that, because I don't want to see the Anjem Chowdhuries or clowns like that mooching around, being able to say what they say and do what they do and get away with it, and nobody says anything, and protest and indoctrinate. And I watched the YouTube video of Chowdhury converting a young 11-year-old boy to Islam. I have no idea how that was ever allowed to happen, but somehow it was. Those kind of characters, most people, I think, most sensible people would say, are beyond any country's requirements. However, the problem you've got, Tommy, is you've been hijacked, haven't you?
No,
giving you the benefit of the doubt. The EDL is now seen as a Nazi, thuggish, right-wing, National Front-style organisation. You are the new Combat 18.
Yep, but we're not. We're not, and it hasn't. That is a media portrayal. That is a left-wing portrayal. And we have serious, as you said, if we are I heard you last night, you said if we are a genuine organisation and we do stand against all these things, and this is really what it is, then great. Well, it is great, and we are great, and people across this country are united, and I actually know it has gone so big, so quick, that it's been hard to keep control of.
But are you telling me, Tommy, that nobody from any of those organisations that you publicly distance yourself from, you telling me that none of those people have joined your organisation, that they're not part of it?
Whenever they've turned up at a demonstration, they've been dealt with. Whenever. You saw it again on Saturday. You said you saw infighting in our demonstration. That was the National Front and Combat 18 getting their heads kicked in. Simple. Because that is the way we deal with fascists within our community. That is the same stance the Islamic community needs to take with the fascists in their community. Now, it's not just, you say, of a minority like 10, is now part of a think tank for the British government. He said that the East London Mosque, when he was part of his extremist organisation, the East London Mosque was one of the mosques that shared their views. 97% of imams in this country are from overseas. 80% of them can't speak English. 92% of them are educated abroad, which means all mosques in this country are controlled by first generation, which leaves most British Muslims and young women or British Muslims out of the management structure. What we're saying is there's serious concerns we've got across the country with the building of mosques, with everything that's going on, and people need to tackle them. And when he done this survey in 2008 from the Quillen Foundation, out of 1,000 mosques he went to, only 500 even let them in. Now, we have got serious issues, and there's serious issues that someone needs to talk.
Tommy, are you anti-Muslim?
I'm anti-Islamic fascism, militant Islam. I believe that Islam is, in a way, a fascist ideology, and if I just point out a few things that are said in the Quran, cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieve.
But you can pick that.
Christians as your perpetrators.
You can pick those comments out of the Bible. You can pick those comments out of any good book.
In the Old Testament, not in the New. What we're saying is Islam, for peace and harmony in this country, Islam needs to reform. People are getting murdered across the world in the name of Islam. Obviously, there's a problem with a section of Islam, and people are no longer getting murdered in the name of Christianity because we've got the New Testament. And integration, all these different things, I could carry on listing.
You're saying nobody around the world gets murdered in the name of Christianity. I think there are countries around, certainly on the African continent, that would give you a big argument on that.
Okay, what I'm saying is the problem with integration in this country is to do with Islam, and the problem with a lot of the militant sections and factions and terrorism is to do with Islam. And people want to pretend that we as an organisation, our community, we are a reaction to actions. People are trying to act as though we're the problem. We're not the problem. We'd go away tomorrow if these problems were dealt with. But
Tommy, I don't know whether you're not seeing something here, but I reckon you guys have hit a stumbling block here. You've hit a huge problem in that the identity of the EDL, whoever you want to blame for this, now doesn't really, it's immaterial, frankly. The identity of the EDL is that of a fascist, racist organisation. And whatever you say, however good intentioned the root of your issue might be, Tom, the amount of people that join your groups that are seen publicly associating themselves. My Facebook last night looked like a Third Reich rally. I'm telling you, because of people who say they're part of the EDL. These are people who purport to be part of your organisation. It was rotten, upsetting in equal measure to see some of the comments.
Okay,
isn't it time you quit the EDL, started afresh, and gave yourself a new identity?
No, it's not, because a lot of the time you see that. We had someone in our Bolton demonstration who was arrested, who was a member of the United Against Fascism giving Nazi salutes. The left and groups, I didn't even know of any of these groups before we started this, the lengths they will go to, actually getting arrested at our demonstration, giving Hitler salutes in order to paint a bad image. This is what they've been doing intentionally from the start. Now, what is the easiest way to silence our argument? To get people to believe we're Nazis. Because then they don't have to have the argument. Like Wayman Bennett, sitting there now like the coward he is, will not debate with me because he will lose every issue, because I talk common sense. I talk on behalf of tens and hundreds of thousands of people in this country who are fed up. I'm not a racist, I'm not a fascist, I'm a realist.
Tommy,
and these problems are serious problems.
Okay.
And when we're sitting there, all we want is to look on the TV and see a politician talking the language that we're talking and talking about some of the issues we're talking about, but none of them dare even talk about them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Michael Gove used to talk about it before he became a minister in the government.
If the politicians don't talk about it and the anger swells up and people feel alienated and like they're not being heard, then it will spill onto the streets.
Tell me this. David in Linlithgow says, can you ask Tommy, why is it not the British Defence League? Soldiers from all corners of the UK have fought against radical Muslims abroad.
Because there was already a Welsh defence. When we started this, there was already a Welsh Defence League set up, and that's why. I know British soldiers are dying like that, but it just happened to be the English. It's not. It accepts the English Defence League accepts anyone. If you come off the boat yesterday and you want to preserve this country's rights stand up against militant Islam, you're welcoming an organisation, aren't you?
All right, Tom, listen.
It's just being eroded.
Okay, Tommy, I thank you for putting your side, your stance, and your position. Some people will listen to that and think, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think the fellow's right. Others may have suspicions.